So you need to earn a lot of long shots, which are also known as long range kills in Vanguard for getting gold, diamond and atomic weapon camos. So in this video I'm going to give you the best maps and game modes, the best class setup for this, and then the best tips for getting long shots really fast, and then a few great long shot spots as examples to help you get them even faster. Now if you want to check out my video with all the best long shot spots on every map in the game, I'll have a card on screen for that and a link in the description when it's ready. And if you need help with any other camo guides or leveling up weapons faster again or anything like that, I'll have links and again cards as well for those on screen or in the description if you need any of those videos. I do recommend sticking around until the end of the video so you do get the most out of the guide, but if you do want to jump to a specific part of it, there will be timestamps in the description. Without further ado, let's jump into the tips. So obviously getting a long shot will count when you see the long shot medal pop up on screen. Now you need 100 long shots for each weapon in Vanguard in order to unlock all the Deadeye camos towards the Mastery Camo challenges. So there's a lot to get through, but with these tips you'll find it much easier to earn them. Let's start off by talking about the best maps, game modes and settings, then we'll move on to the class setup, and then at the end of the video we'll have some great tips for getting the long shots even faster, and then at the very end we'll also have some of the best long shot spots in the game. So definitely stay tuned to the end if you're needing help with long shots, but after this video if you do want help with some more long shot spots and kind of the best ones on every map in the game, I'll make a separate video for that, and then feel free to check it out if you need. Right, so in terms of the modes then, you always want to be playing hardcore as enemies have less health, so it's easier to get a kill at longer ranges. The best actual game modes are ones like Domination, Free for All, but only on kind of the really good long shot maps, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Then also other ones like TDM, Kill Confirmed, Patrol, etc. So the mode kind of is important, but it's not super important. The main important factor is the maps, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. First, let's talk about combat pacing. So combat pacing is a new setting in Vanguard which determines how many players are in a match. There's three options, which are Tactical, Assault and Blitz. Tactical has the least amount of players, so you'll have less players in your match. Assault has a medium amount and Blitz has a really large amount of players. Assault or Blitz are kind of the best ones you're going to want to go for because some of the maps are quite large in the game, so obviously if you go on Tactical there'll be less players, it's quite a big map, you'll struggle to find people and it can be a bit more difficult. Blitz may often be a bit too hectic for some people as well, so if that's the case obviously Assault's best for you, but I think in general Assault or Blitz is definitely going to be good for most people. Like I say, if you're doing fine with Assault, great. If you're struggling to find people, try and put on Blitz, but if it's too hectic, stick with Assault. It's the kind of the sweet spot in the setting. So in terms of which maps are best, there's a wide variety of good maps in the game, but my favourite ones for getting long shots are the following. So we've got Bow Cage, that's pretty good, and I'll show some spots on these maps later on at the end of the video. Also Das House, that's a really good one. It's a very small map, but it's got a really good long shot spot down the middle of the map. Obviously there's loads of enemies running about, so you're going to get a lot of long shots on this map, so definitely vote for this where you can. It's kind of like the shoot house of Vanguard, so definitely make use of it. We've also got Decoy, which is alright. Demyansk can be pretty good as well. Dome is definitely not too bad. Eagle's Nest is alright. Gavu is really good for long shots as well, and then Oasis is pretty good, and Red Star and some of the other ones can be alright as well. So those are kind of the main maps for getting long shots, but sort of my favourite of ones would be ones like Das House, Demyansk, Gavu, Oasis, those kind of ones. But like I say, I'll show you some of the example best long shot spots in Vanguard at the end of the video, so either feel free to stay tuned to then or check it out at the end of the video. Now let's move on to the class setup. So obviously attachments may vary from class to class, hence if the specific attachment I suggest isn't available for your weapon, try to use the most similar attachment and try to apply the general tips from the class to your own setup. So in terms of what attachments to use on your weapons, you first of all would want a good optic such as the M19 4.0x flip. There's also the K98 Scout 10x telescopic optic, or the 1913 variable 4 to 8 times zoom optic. There's also the ZF4 3.5x rifle scope, the MK12 night vision, the 1229 Slate 3.25 custom, and finally the SVT 40 PU scope, which varies between 3 and 6 times zoom. Those are kind of the main optics you want to go for. Obviously with some of them you have to level up the weapon quite a lot to get to, so it depends on how far the weapon is leveled up, but definitely these are good scopes to go for. I think the night vision one, the MK12 night vision, is probably one of the best because it's got low recoil, it's zoomed in a decent amount, but also it can see enemies that wouldn't normally appear because the map has got difficult lighting or they've got cold-blooded on, something like that, so that can be quite a good one. But there's some other good ones as well. Feel free to go for whatever one you like and you've got unlocked. Then you want attachments that increase the recoil control and accuracy. You also want ones that increase the ammo capacity or reload speed, your movement speed, but really important as well is the damage range and bullet velocity. Those kind of attachments is what you want, and obviously you'll need to tailor the attachments to whichever weapon you're using. So I'm going to give you an example class setup with a list of attachments for an assault rifle, but obviously like I say, feel free to apply these kinds of attachments and these kind of tips to your own class setup. So I had the STG-44 assault rifle and I put on the Mercury silencer for the muzzle, I put on the VDD 760mm05B barrel, the MK12 night vision optic, the VDD 34S weighted stock, put on the sleight of hand for proficiency, the fully loaded kit, the pine tar grip for the rear grip, the .30 Russian short 30 round mags for the magazine, the subsonic ammo type, and then finally for the underbarrel I went for a bipod, which basically improves your recoil control when mounted or crouched or prone. This is a really good attachment, so especially if you're in an area where you can either lie down or mount onto an object, it improves your recoil and obviously you're more hidden as well, so that's really useful. In terms of the equipment for your class, you're going to want to put on something like a stim shot, as this allows you to heal when you take damage. You can also put on something like demolition charge for the lethal, just so you can place that down somewhere. It's basically like C4, and if an enemy's coming up behind you somewhere, you can always detonate it to take them out. Other than that, there's not really any very useful lethal equipment which can help with this challenge, because anything you use will just take away from the kills that can go towards long shots. So I'd put that down, but only use it if you think someone's going to come up to you and kill you. Otherwise, I'd just leave it. For the field upgrade, I put on a tactical insertion so that you can respawn in an area you were sitting if it was useful for long shots, and sometimes you can die. If you respawn there, obviously it can be quite useful, so definitely make use of that. For the perks, they're not super useful, but the ones that you could put on are ones like Cold Blooded, first of all, in perk 1, which allows AI controlled kill streaks not to target you, and player controlled kill streaks will not highlight you. You don't trigger high alert, it reduces the range at which the awareness markers appear for enemies, that kind of thing. In perk 2 you can put on high alert, where your vision pulses when enemies outside of your view see you, and in perk 3 you can put on lightweight, which increases your movement speed just to kind of get to a good long shot spot. Other than that, there's not a lot of great attachments really, and obviously feel free to mix and match the attachments or adjust anything in your setup to your playstyle. So that's the class setup. Now let's quickly talk about some good tips for getting long shots, and then I'll show you some of the great long shot spots in the game. So first of all, you want to maximize your distance from the enemy. Push yourself back as far as you can. Obviously, if you know you're definitely going to get a long shot from where enemies will be, that's fine. But if you're not sure where enemies could come from, or if there is a close place they could come from and pop out, push yourself back as far as you can to increase the chance of getting a long shot. It's so annoying if you shoot someone and they're just slightly too short because they run slightly too much towards you, let's say. It'll be really annoying. So push yourself back as far as you can, do whatever you can to get back and create as much distance as you can between you and the enemy, and then you've got a much better chance of getting a long shot. Obviously you want to try and focus on places that has a high flow area, but also it's far enough away from where you are, so you've got to kind of base on which map and the game mode and so on. But yeah, try and push yourself back as far as you can relative to the enemy. It's often better to get to higher ground as well, or any kind of safe points if possible, like for example in a sniper tower or sort of behind cover, just anywhere you can make yourself a little bit more safe and sort of hide out a bit more rather than just running about in the open trying to get a long shot. Otherwise that's really difficult. Also, it might be worth trying to keep prone or crouched if possible. Obviously you're less exposed, so you're less likely to get shot, and obviously try and make use of cover you can hide behind or mount onto, as I kind of alluded to before. This means you're less likely to get shot and have obviously an improved recoil control, especially if you've got attachments like bipod which improve your recoil when you're mounting onto something like the floor or a wall. So obviously make use of this, make use of the environment, it's really important. And if an enemy is particularly far away, or you've got a class which has quite a lot of recoil, unfortunately, what you can do is either burst fire if you need to, or if you press left on the D-pad you can change the fire mode from fully auto to like a single shot. Both of these things will reduce your recoil, improve your accuracy, and obviously you're more likely to get the kill, because if your gun's kicking right up in the air you can't see where they are, it's really difficult. If you turn this single shot fire mode on, or if you keep tapping the trigger rather than holding it down and burst firing, basically you reduce the recoil and you're more likely to get the kill. So definitely don't just hold down the trigger and hope for the best, because often it doesn't work like that. Also make sure to adjust the sensitivity and aim down sight sensitivity to check you're happy with it, as this will make it easier to get long shots. Definitely important to check the settings and don't have the wrong thing on, otherwise it'll make it more difficult for no reason. And I'd also say don't worry about your KD or anything else in the game, just focus on the long shots, and then you can focus on getting KD up or getting a good game or lots of kill streaks, whatever it is. Don't worry about that. When you're going for the long shots, just focus on the long shots. Obviously if you can overlap it with any other challenges, that's great, but don't try and do too much. Your main goal is the long shots. And I say if you're really struggling with the long shots, you can always come back to it later, so move on to another camo challenge and then come back to it later, because the chances are you'll naturally kind of get more long shots and possibly even finish them, so you don't have to actually focus on them, because you would have already done them accidentally and naturally without having to go for them when you're not even trying for them. So definitely if you're struggling, move on to something else and come back to it when you finished all the other challenges. Right, I'm glad you guys have stuck this far into the video, because after all these tips and the class setup and the best modes and everything, we're now going to talk about some really good spots in the game that you can use for long shots. Like I say, this is just a few of them, there's not all of them, but if you want a video that covers the best spots on every map, I'm going to be making that soon, and when it's available you can check it out by the card on screen or a link in the description. So that'll be a bit more detail, but for now these are the main kind of spots you're going to be wanting to go for in the game. So on Das Haus, like I say, it's a really good map, it's small, fast paced, there's lots of enemies running about. So what I'd recommend doing is going to the middle lane and look from one side of the map to the other along this middle lane. There's high traffic flow, but obviously unfortunately there's also like frequent explosions, a bit of dust and dark corridors and so on. so it can make it a bit hard to see the enemies at times. So if you've got the thermal optic unlocked, definitely a great idea. If not, it's still fun to get long shots. Hopefully you'll see in the gameplay I got some, but obviously it might make it a little bit more difficult in certain cases. So if you've got the thermal optic, definitely use it. If not, you can still do really well on the map. That's kind of the main spot. Most of the other encounters on the map will be very close quarters. I don't know if there's many other long shot spots on the map because, you know, you're frequently running into people at very close distance. It's not a very big map, but that's the best one that I know of, and obviously it works for like assault rifles and so on as well. Next up we've got Oasis. So if you go to the left side of the map and you mount onto the low walls, there's two different parts you can go onto. Obviously there's loads of different spots, but these are kind of the main ones that I'm suggesting. And if you mount onto these low walls and look across at the debris / tank on the other side of the map, this is a really high traffic area. There was lots of people coming past for the game mode, and I was getting lots and lots of long shots. Now be careful, because in this game they can actually destroy your cover, so they can shoot it down, kind of destroy bits of it with explosions and bullets and so on. So just be careful of that, and just remember you're not invincible like in other games. The stuff you can mount onto can be destroyed, but obviously you just have to kind of push yourself back to where there is cover, or you can mount onto the floor. Just do whatever you can. But yeah, that's a really great spot. Next we've got Gather 2. This is a really large map with lots of great engagements. So for example, looking to or from the central ship, or sitting in the sniper tower and looking across at the road or head, or at the windows of the buildings opposite. You know, this is, like I say again, is a great high traffic area. There's good cover and loads of potential long shot kills. This is one of my favourite maps for getting long shots. There's tons of spots, and this is just a few of them that I'm mentioning. Next up we've got Dome. This is a pretty decent one, especially if you've got sort of the blitz mode on, where there's loads of enemies. And if you're on Dome, there's two main areas. One of them is in the long outside balcony section, so you can look across from one side to the other, or you can look across from one indoor balcony to the other inside the main building, or kind of anyone that's on the floor near the balcony. There's basically lots of lines of sight from one side of the map to the other. It's really great for getting long shots, especially if you kind of mount onto a wall or a box or something. It's really, really good for long shots, so definitely make use of that. Then we've got Demyansk. This is a great map, especially when, you know, getting kills along the wooded area near the beach. That's a great place, or otherwise looking out from the sniper tower in the church. This is fantastic. So obviously if you place a tactical insertion down there, it's really helpful in case you get shot. So mount onto the wall or kind of the window frame and look out. There'll be lots of enemies in the woods. Just watch out for the ones like in windows or, you know, on the roofs of buildings opposite. But yeah, that's a really, really great one, and I got lots of long shots from that spot. And finally, the last main one I'm going to be talking about in this video is on Bow Cage. So there's lots of great spots, but one of them is looking across from one corner of the map to the spawn point in the other corner, but there's also a lookout tower, so people can be at that kind of bridged area near the road and people spawn there with tanks, or alternatively next to it there's a lookout tower as well. So both of those can have enemies. Obviously people can jump down and kind of run towards you, but the further back they are, the more likely you are to get the long shot. And bear in mind with all of these long shot spots that you can do it from both ways, so you don't have to be just on the side I'm saying. You can be on the opposite side, but obviously the side I'm saying normally makes it easier, but a lot of them are, you know, accessible from both sides, so you can flip it. So like if your spawn flips to the other side, you can still make use of it and do the opposite. It doesn't matter as long as you're using those range of sights. But yeah, like I say, that is how to get long shots or long range kills in Vanguard really easily. If you found it useful, be sure to leave a like on the video. It really helps me out, and feel free to subscribe with your post notifications turned on by clicking the bell icon to stay up to date with all my latest Vanguard and Warzone videos. If you want to check out any other guides, like any other camo guides for getting gold, diamond and atomic camos, or, you know, the zombies camos, leveling up weapons fast, or also, like I said, if you want that guide specifically on all the long shot spots in Vanguard, feel free to check it out. It'll be really useful. But thanks for watching. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you guys all on the next one.